Hi, I'm Dave Ingebretson, and LeRoy Hyatt and I would like to welcome you to another edition of Fly Tying the Angler's Art. And today we're going to tie 3 dry flies. We don't usually do that, but this will be a little bit different. We're going to start out with the red quill.
Red quill.
Then we're going to tie the fluttering caddis and finish up with the gray fox variant.
Spider fly.
A spider fly, yeah.
You bet. Well, for the red quill, we're going to use a medium bronze hackle for the hackle. The stem, and also for the tail, the body material is going to be tied with a stripped coachman hackle fiber, or stem, I should say. The wing will be tied with wood duck or mallard flank, whatever you happen to have. The thread will be gray. You know, I really enjoy tying with this wood duck. It's such a pretty feather.
So beautiful to tie with.
I have a size 12 hook and the vise.
And I think when you tie the tail and the hackle, we ought to show them that cape too.
Sure can.
Because this is a little unusual. It's got the real bronzy sheen on top, and if you look at underneath the feathers, they're definitely blue done. It really is a true bronze blue done hackle.
Now I'm going to tie the wing in first, like always. I'm going to measure it. It's going to be about the length of the shank of the hook. I'm going to tie it on with it going over the eye and bind it down. I'll go ahead and clip this off.
You know, I tend to think of that red quill as an eastern fly because that's where I used it the most and where I ran into it. But again, it has such an insect appeal to it that it's good any place.
Sure is. Now I'm going to go ahead and divide these. I know that you tell me that you always finish your wing dividing them first, and sometimes I do.
I always set it up and get it totally finished.
Yeah, sometimes I do.
And here again, one thing I often do is make a horizontal figure 8 around the wings without going around the hook. It pulls those fibers together.
Pulls them together a little bit.
But there's a little trick to doing it. If you're going to take a figure 8 horizontally around the wings without going around the hook, the tendency is to go around the wing and then pull it off.
Yeah.
So when you go around the wing, you have to pull down a little bit.
Yes.
Then grab the other wing, go around that, and pull down a little bit.
To hold it all in.
If you pull horizontally on the thread, it'll flip off the wing every time.
Sure will. Now here's this bronze neck. This is really a beautiful thing.
I hope the camera can pick that up.
It really does have some wonderful colors in it. I don't know if it'll show that shine like that or not. And we'll come over here on the side, like we always do for a tail material.
Spade hackle.
And pull a spade hackle. And you know, I really think that probably just a plain old dark mahogany dyed spade would do the same thing for the tail instead of this bronze, depending on what you have.
Yeah, it doesn't have to always be strictly true to pattern, but if you can use the real
stuff,
of course,
it makes a lot of difference.
There's a reason for it, and the nice part about it is when it's natural, not dyed, is the breakup of the color and the light reflection and the stiffness, and it's just got everything going for it.
You can really see that in this pattern, but it's that neck would be hard for a lot of guys to come by.
It's very.
I know it would. Now for the body material, what I've done is I've taken this dyed coachman neck, and I've stripped all the hackle off of the stem. You can see a real distinct variation as that dye sets into each one of those little barbs.
And if you coat that with head cement afterwards, it'll make the colors so much richer.
Yeah, I will do that. I sure will.
Yeah. You know, we might say, talking about the rare necks like this, sometimes you see things that are so rare that if you can do it, you ought to buy them.
Yep.
You can't always afford it, but if you see some of these unusual things, they don't come along very often. Why, get them if you can.
That's right. Now I'll go ahead and wrap this hackle stem forward, this stripped hackle stem forward, and you can definitely see that segment in there.
I think that's one thing that this fly is going to have is all this breakup of color and light.
Yes, very much.
And I think that just adds to the realism because most things in nature are not one solid color like they'd be painted by a 5th grader.
No, and you know, you look at different insects and you're sure that they are one color, but if you turn them in the light, they are not. Or see them under magnification. You bet.
Now
I've pulled a couple of these again, this bronze material, and I'm going to go ahead and tie in 2 hackle here. strip those off.
Now, a little trick on some of these eastern patterns is not to use too much hackle.
Yes.
Not too many turns. If you're using the same pattern in the west, you might want to hackle it a little heavier because you're often fishing rougher water.
Yes. Now
So
I'm going to take 2 turns. I'll take 3 turns behind that wing. I'm going to come ahead of the wing and take 2 or 3 more turns.
now that's certainly plenty. Now, by the time you get the second hackle in there, that's going to be nice and dense,
Yes.
but still there won't be too much on there. It won't cover a lot of the hook shank.
Now I'm going to wind this kind of in a zigzag motion. That will keep it from binding down some of the other hackle fibers.
Oh, that looks good. I'd
And
stop it
come
right
forward.
there, yeah.
Yeah, and grab that, tie it down, and then I'll trim these off. Try not to cut the rest of your hackle off as you do that.
Boy, that's a nice looking fly, LeRoy.
Oh, it really is. And the colors of it are just unreal. Take a couple of quick turns with a with a whip tool. Get rid of that.
Put some head cement on that
And I'm going to put head cement on the head and on the body.
Yeah,
Because that will really make that body shine.
yeah.
And you can just see it run all the way through those fibers.
Boy, that's a fine, fine fly.
There's
It's
for the
perfectly tied, and it's great materials. It's
perfectly tied.
that
Coming
is a
from
red
you.
quill. Hey, that's
Coming from you, that's nice.
no, that's hard. That's a good fly.
There's a red quill. It has the bronze hackle for the tail and hackle. It has a strip coachman stem, hackle stem, Coachman Brown, and it has the wood duck for the wing.
LeRoy, our next dry fly tonight is going to be a caddis, Fluttering Caddis, and this was developed by Leonard Wright. He wrote the book Fishing the Dry Fly as a Living Insect, where he was talking about the sudden inch, where you would make your fly after it lands have just a little bit of a movement and then drift and a little bit of a movement, trying to make it look like it was alive. And he developed this style of Fluttering Caddis that, as the viewers will see, is really very simple: a wing and a body and a hackle. Why don't you tell them about it?
All right, we're going to use, for the wing material, I'm going to use a spade hackle, fibers off a spade hackle. The body will be a ginger dubbing, and the hackle will be a ginger hackle.
Now this is then the ginger caddis, probably not the black fluttering
black.
caddis.
It comes several different
ties it
colors.
in a variety of colors.
Yes,
and
the thread I'm going to use is tan to go along
so
with.
again, you can tie this in any color. This
lots.
happens to be the ginger fluttering caddis.
Lots. I'll dress that entire hook shank, and again, you can vary this color of ginger, the dubbing that you're going to use. In fact, this may be just a little bit on the orange side. Won't matter a bit.
Well, blend the dubbing to get the shade you want.
Just what you want.
Yeah.
And again, we're not going to use much dubbing. I know I say that every time I dub, but of all the classes that I've taught, this is a real problem for people. This dubbing gets to going on, and they just want to put a lot on.
That looks good. I know I tend to even use sparser than you do.
Oh, do you really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just barely get a fuzzy thread.
Well, I've got a little bit more than that. I'll build just a slight taper here. And I want to leave myself room for hackle. I put too much dubbing on. Very simple to pull it all off.
Now, again, this fly has got the essentials of the natural downwing caddis. And without a tail, the wing is going to have to be fairly long, because the idea is this fly is supported by the wingtips and the hackle.
Now, I've seen this fly where the wing, they ask for mink guard hairs.
Mink tail, yeah.
Mink tail.
Leonard Wright was real high on that, and it does, mink tail guard hairs make great wing fibers, but it's hard to get in a variety of colors.
So what I'm going to use is this ginger spade hackle. I took it right off the side of that ginger neck, and that it will be plenty long enough, plenty stiff enough.
And here you want to use a fairly bulky wing, because again, it has to support the fly, and it has to imitate that tent-shaped downwing of a natural caddis. So take a little larger
I've
quantity
pulled off
of
quite a
material,
little bunch there. And you do want it longer than
yeah.
you would normally tie the wing,
yeah, it's
because
much
that
longer.
will be the supporting.
It's probably got to be half again the length of the hook.
Yes.
Because that's what the fly is going to ride on to get that little skating sudden inch he talks about.
You bet.
And if you want to learn more about this technique, look up the book that is probably in your library, Fishing the Dry Fly as a Living Insect.
I don't
by
think I've
Leonard
ever
Wright.
read that. No,
Yeah.
I don't think I ever have. But that makes a nice little wing. It really does. And that will support that fly
There you
very
go.
well.
That's good.
Now, contrary to the last fly we just tied, which was very sparse as far as the hackle went, this one will be a little bit heavier hackled. That's why I'm going to use this saddle hackle. It's more hackle to it. You only have to use one. I just like the way it looks as it goes on. Now I'm going to pinch this wing together just a little bit.
And I would try to lay it down a little bit more so it's a little more parallel to the hook.
You bet, when I let go of it. But I just
Yeah.
want to wrap that hackle over at one time just to
Yeah.
kind of drag it all together.
And you can use the hackle to hold it down in position a
Yes,
little bit. That looks
absolutely.
good there.
And then come forward with it
Yeah.
and tie that off.
And that's a nice dense hackle that's going to
It
support
really
that
is.
fly.
And it's good and stiff.
And even if you don't use that sudden inch the way Wright describes it in the fishing, it's still a good caddis imitation.
Excellent caddis
And of course,
imitation.
caddis are very active on the water.
When they're
And
hatching,
this
they
will
are.
skate on the tips, the hackle and tail, and you can move it a bit. And it's a good caddis pattern.
And you know, it's a fun fly to fish.
Oh,
You
sure.
can see with that ginger. Now, with the black, I have a little bit of hard trouble seeing it, but with this ginger, you could see that a
Well,
long
and the
ways
thing,
away.
fishing caddis is you get some awful spectacular, flashy rises from the fish.
Oh, crazy.
Because they're used to chasing these crazy naturals. And with all the movement there, and the fish are afraid that the fly is going to get away, and they just slash at them. And
You bet.
caddis fishing is a lot of fun when there's a
it
big hatch
is.
on.
Well, there's a fluttering ginger caddis. It's nothing more than ginger dubbing. It has the ginger spade hackle for the wing. You could also use mink guard hairs, but we use spade, and it has the ginger hackle.
Our next fly, we're going to tie one of Art Flick's favorite pattern. Art Flick was one of the pioneer Eastern fly tiers. I had the privilege of meeting and tying with him
really?
one time. Got to know him as a sweet, sweet, unassuming guy.
Huh?
And it's a long story, but I ended up spending off and on for a week with Art
Really?
down West Yellowstone, of all places. And what a treat that was, because he was just a legend at that time. He wrote the book Guide to Tying the Naturals, I think it was. I can't remember exactly, and I should have. I'm embarrassed. But this was one of his favorite flies, the gray fox variant. And tell us what you're going to use to tie it.
Pretty simple pattern. We'll use a ginger spade hackle for the tail, and I'm also going to take one of those hackles, strip it to use for the body. It's going to be another quill body. We'll mix grizzly and ginger together for the hackle, and then, of course, like I said, the stem being the hackle stem strip. The thread will be the yellow 6/0 tying
I
thread.
can take care of some of my embarrassment. The book was Art Flick's Streamside Guide.
Okay.
He wrote
sure.
He wrote a number of things, but Art
Sure.
Flick's Streamside Guide was the real pioneering work that he did.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I remember that too.
Oh, yeah. But what
Okay.
a sweet guy he was.
I'll run that tying thread about up to even with the point of the hook and pull one of these spade feathers out. Get rid of that section. Pull some of them down, just kind of straighten them out where you can kind of get them, keep them a little evener as you pull them off. And we'll make a tail section out of this. Put them all together, measure it out. It's supposed to be about the length of the shank. Soft loop it, pull it tight, and do it again. Then I'll trim these off at an angle. Now I've already stripped one of these hackle stems off that ginger. Go ahead and trim that tip off. I'm going to tie this in by the tip. A couple of wraps, make sure it's bound. And then as I wrap forward, I want to keep that thread as close together as I can to leave a nice level body for that.
And sometimes on a fly like this, I will take the tail fibers and butt them up against the butt of the wings, but if there's no wings, I'll just run them the whole length of the hook shank
And
if
this
there's
one
enough
doesn't
there.
have a wing.
If there's enough there, I'll just run the tail fibers the whole length of the body. But the main thing is to not have a hump
Right.
where you go over the end of the tail fibers.
And you know, when you wrap these quill bodies on, I'm always amazed every time I do it. You think it's all the same color till you start wrapping,
Oh, yeah.
and then there's big difference.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stop that right
Well,
there.
again, like so many of the real classic patterns, we overuse the word classic, but in fly fishing, there's a lot of classics, I guess, are very simple to tie. And again, creating the impressions that we're trying to create with the light.
Sure.
And this is a great pattern.
Yeah. Now, the hackle on this fly is oversized.
Yeah.
And you know, back when he was tying these, almost all the hackle was oversized.
Well, I think this is what makes it a variant.
Yes, okay.
I think that's why the name variant is on
Sure.
there, because it uses an extra large diameter hackle.
And then he just mixed the grizzly and the ginger together. It doesn't matter which one you wrap forward first. And you can see that hackle is longer.
Yeah, it's over
Wanting
twice the gap of the hook.
Yes.
It should be.
Yes, wanting to twist on me there a little bit. And come forward with it.
I've always wondered why they call it a gray fox variant when there's got nothing to do with a fox.
No gray.
The only thing gray in it is one grizzly hackle,
That's-
but
yeah.
that's it. And so much of his writing, you'll read him talking about fishing the gray fox variant.
Then stagger this one through.
Yeah.
And you know, in a windstorm, that little fly will just skate on
it'll
top of
skate
the water.
and hop. And of course, to carry this one more extreme would be a spider. Now, a spider he usually tied on a real short shank hook,
Yes.
and quite often no tail, just a little couple turns of tinsel body, and then very, very large hackle.
Enormous hackle.
And he would instead of having the concave side of the hackle facing forward, he'd have one facing forward and one backwards.
Which makes
so
it very tiny.
The two would come together, and you'd
Yeah.
have a sharp edge on the
Yes.
fly.
Yes.
And then with that sharp edge, it'd just get up and just stand up and skate. But no tail. You'd pick the thing up and stand it up on the hackle and let it skate all over. And sometimes on a size, I don't know, on a little 14 short shank hook, the thing would be the
Tiny
size of a
little
50-cent
guys.
piece.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes, I think just for effect, he'd put little tiny quarter-of-an-inch wings in there.
Oh, you're
They'd be
kidding.
buried down in the hackle.
What's the sense of putting a
Well, I
wing
don't
on
know,
it?
just for the look. But so there is a difference between the spider and the variant.
Yes. Yeah, a spider fly, this hackle would probably be twice that size.
Oh yeah, well, in a
Pretty
short
close.
shank hook
Yeah,
too, and
and a
no
short
tail, and
shank.
you just stand it up on the hackles and let the wind take it and skitter it across the water.
Well, there's a gray fox variant. Has the ginger hackle fibers for the tail, has a strip ginger hackle stem for the body, and the hackle is ginger and grizzly mixed.
LeRoy, we're going to do something we haven't done before.
Not recently.
Not recently. We're going to give him a bonus fly tonight, a fourth fly. We've tied our 3 dry flies we intended to tie, but we've got a little time left, and if we hurry, I think we can get one more fly in. Let's make it a nymph.
We'll try.
A big fish nymph that a
Right.
big fish fisherman, Charlie Brooks
Charlie
developed, and
Brooks.
it's his item A nymph.
Right. We'll use gold wire for one of the ribbings. This fly has 2 ribbings. I'll use black rabbit for the dubbing. The other rib will be peacock herl. The hackle and tail will be dyed grizzly. This happens to be a hen. You could use whatever. The tying thread will be black, 6/0.
Now, normally this fly would be weighted, but
Very
let's not, in
heavily.
view of
No,
our time, let's not
for
weight
the
the
time,
fly.
we'll try to get it in.
Charlie Brooks specialized in catching big fish. And to do that, he wanted big flies. He wanted heavily weighted, so they're down on the bottom
Yes.
where the real nymph is and where the big fish are.
Yes. Charlie was a neato guy. I
He
had the
was
privilege of meeting him once.
Oh, I knew Charlie so well and spent lots of time on his front porch looking at the mountains and talking fly tying. And
He was a crusty old
Oh, he
devil.
really was. I stood with my arms around his wife at the memorial ceremony they had
Oh,
for
is
him at
that
the
right?
Barnes Pool on the Madison, and he was a good friend. Yeah.
I'll dig in my wastrel here. I got a piece of this wire left. I'll go ahead
Okay.
and tie that on, make it a little
All
quicker.
right. Yeah, we're rushing to get one
Yeah,
in, but
we
I think this is a
really
good
are.
fly
This
to
is
include.
a neat fly.
It really is.
Yeah.
We're going to just use a single strand now.
Single strand of
rib.
peacock. And I don't really know what this fly represents.
Well, I'm not sure. I halfway am tempted to say that that's what he used for a green drake nymph, but I won't come out and say it for fear somebody will hold me to that, because I'm not sure I believe it, because it doesn't really look like the green drake nymph. But somewhere in the back of my mind it seems that I remember thinking that. I certainly wouldn't say it in front of anybody, so I'd be held to it.
Now, this fly does not have a whole lot of taper to it. It's really pretty straight.
And I don't know if we said we're tying this on a 10 2X
this
long.
This is a size 10.
An 8 and 10, I think, is what he generally tied them on.
And heavily weighted.
Yeah.
Heavily weighted. In fact, really, as I recall, this is one of the smaller flies that Charlie used to fish.
He used 4s and 6s and great
enormous
big stuff.
things.
You didn't want to drop one on your some of his flies weighed more than some of the trout I've caught.
Well, he'd hit you in the back of the head with it, and
he specialized in big fish. In fact, that was one of his books, The Taking of Larger Trout for the Western Fly Fishermen, and he wrote a nymph book, and he is quite a prolific writer.
Now here I'm going to go with the peacock curl. Just keep it kind of separated out, and it looks like it's kind of disappearing into that black. But you can definitely see it.
Oh, it'll give it a little bit of a rib.
Yes. Get that off. And now I'm going to reverse wrap this wire.
Well, it'll do two things. It'll show up and it'll help bind the peacock down, because one strand of peacock for a rib is pretty weak stuff.
And it would definitely break.
Yeah.
Come forward with that wire. Make sure I get it bound down good, if I can let go of it.
I'm chuckling to see you ripping along with this fly, but we're going to get through it.
Well, I think we will. And then
it's kind of fun to give him a bonus.
For the hackle, it's again the soft hackle, and I'll tell you, I really like soft hackle.
Oh, yeah.
I just...
Yeah. Well, you can buy them, and these capes are inexpensive.
Yes.
Soft hackle capes, or soft hackle with chickaboo, or hen hackle, and they've got so much absorbency and so much movement, they're perfect.
You bet. Oh, I let that slip. Here I am rushing. I let it go around.
And never once did your fingers leave your hand.
Never once. Now, again, here you do not want a whole lot of wraps around that.
Oh, no.
You want
two or three.
Yes, at the most.
Because we're just imitating the legs of a nymph.
And I'll bind that down. Make this head just a little bit bigger than I like. I did not, I'd take my time with the next one.
It's all right. It's a nymph, and they have prominent heads.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah.
But there's an item A.
And I really recommend that to people. It's a good searching pattern, and
I've used it on the Henry's Fort.
Oh, yeah.
And good fly. And there's the item A. Has a dyed green grizzly tail and hackle. The body is black rabbit, ribbed with peacock and gold wire.
LeRoy, I got a chuckle when I looked at that dainty fly you tied. I think Charlie Brooks would run you out of the shop, because
he would turn over.
That's pretty dainty for a Brooks fly.
Should be twice that big around.
Should be twice that big. He really weighted them so heavily.
The lead wire.
They were big flies.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's positively dainty, but it would still do the job.
Hey, I'll catch fish with it.
Yes, you will. Well, this show we've tied 4 flies, giving you a bonus. We tied the
red
quill, the Fluttering Caddis, ginger Fluttering Caddis. We tied the gray fox variant, and we finished up with our bonus fly for tonight, the item A nymph.
A small one, but it's there.
A small one, but it's there, and they're all good flies. They'll catch fish for you. Give them a try. Do some fly tying this week, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thanks for watching, and good night.
Dave and LeRoy have produced 2 90-minute videos covering new and exciting tips on how to make your fly tying better and more effective. They introduce you to everything you need as a beginner and demonstrate helpful techniques for intermediate tiers. Fly Tying Techniques Volumes 1 and 2 are available by calling 1-800-883-0124. Cost of each video is $28.95 plus shipping and handling, or get the 2-volume set for just $52.95. You can also order the programs in this series. Each 90-minute videotape includes 3 programs for just $22.95 plus shipping and handling. To order Fly Tying, the Angler's Art videos and techniques tapes, call 1-800-883-0124.